Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody that's tuning in and listening to the first ever Neuro-Link Mind Matters podcast that we are launching. We are very, very privileged and excited to get going in this new field. It's something new to us, and we are extremely, extremely privileged to have our first guest of the Neuro-Link Mind Matters podcast, Kim Everitt. She is a neuro coach, a pioneer of industry, a trainer, has a passion for development and people. And we've got Dr. Andre Vermeulen with us, the thought leader, the CEO of Neuro-Link, and yeah, just overall pioneer in the field of applied neuroscience. So I would like to open today and just ask you, Kim, if you could give a brief, just yeah, just a short, slight introduction to you, your businesses. I know you've got a couple of businesses that you actually run, and just to give a short intro to your field of expertise, and then Dr. Andre will do the same for you.
Thank you, Andre. And how amazing is this? So, what comes to mind first is that as much as it's referred to as a business, and I understand the semantics, it it is way deeper and wider than that. But let's speak about businesses. I'm the CEO and founder of the Neuro Coach and Mentor Institute, and our focus is on training and supporting and certifying in the field of mentoring and coaching. And that's within other businesses or independent coaches and mentors. And then born on a serviette in a restaurant, by the way, and I've kept all the serviettes, I would take still this pen and make notes on a serviette. It's amazing what happens over a cappuccino. And I would make notes on the serviette, and I actually put together the business case, which was the business unit of certifying coaches and mentors in applied neuroscience and taking this out into industry and empowering those. And then the other business unit is the NeuroBusiness Institute, where we go into organizations, entrepreneurial companies, SMMEs, corporate government, and we take the mentoring and coaching into these organizations and also certify coaches and mentors internally. What was the business case here, Andre? It was we have certified and qualified thousands of coaches and mentors in Neuro Coach and Mentor Institute. And when we get the business in the NeuroBusiness Institute, in corporates and SMMEs, we actually deploy the coaches that have studied through us.
That's brilliant. That's
As the coach
phenomenal.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because it's not employing, but it's empowering and equipping.
yeah.
We bring only coaches that have certified through us, into these projects and programs.
Yeah,
That was the Soviet, the consequence of the Soviet. So there you go.
I absolutely love that, and it's almost, yeah. Well, I know from Neuralink's perspective, it's always good to have your stamp of approval on or the coaches that you'll be sending out into the world of business. So you know that they've gone through your process. There's a certain expectation of excellence that goes in with that. So I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And to get all of that done over a cappuccino and a serviette, that sounds like the type of business plan I could get involved with quite quickly.
It started there. There was
There
a
you
lot
go.
more that went into it after it.
And Dr. Andre, I would love for you to just give a brief intro about yourself, and then yeah, we can get the conversation going.
Yes, my journey began in 1992. I've always loved people, love interacting with people. I'm a very social person and always thought, I'd like to do something in my life where I can work with people. So I started out as a teacher, but after that, I decided I need to do something different. Maybe perhaps because of my own journey, I believed I cannot really talk to people well. I'm not really that good with people and so forth. And over the years, I started discovering, but the things that I believe that I'm not is actually who I really am, but I had blind spots. And I was never aware of those blind spots. So it's always been a journey for me of discovering more of who I am, but also understanding as a teacher, why is it that some children learn faster than others? Some experience difficulties. Sometimes they turn around a B and a D. Why is that? So the brain has always been my interest. And after having been a teacher, I just started to make my interest my life purpose. So Neuro-Link's journey started in 1992, and then I went into the corporate world. And what we do today, where we specialize in the neuroscience of performance optimization, and it's packaged as neuroagility, that has never been just a good idea. It has been a journey of 35 years or more where I have constantly been in the trenches with clients who experience difficulties, performance optimization difficulties, sometimes accidents, mistakes, human error. People make mistakes, and then we research, but why is that? And one of the most important things for me, except for the brain being an interest, has always been that, if we want to follow an inclusive approach towards developing people, there cannot be a better place to start than the brain. Because regardless of gender and culture, beliefs, race, whatever makes us different, what we all have in common is a brain. And that has always been to me this mystery about, somewhere in there is all this potential, and how do I unlock that potential? And if clients experience pain points and difficulties, I always went back to brain-based learning and development in those days to see if we can't find answers there. But over the years, based on a combination of client needs, learning also, what future tendencies tell us, what is the talent going to look like that we are going to need in the future, but then also being part of the neuroscience research group of the University of Pretoria, where my job is literally to translate neuroscience into tools that the worlds of business and education and sports optimization can use to help people be an even better version of ourselves. So it's been a journey of many decades, constantly learning, adapting, finding new answers to this. And this is eventually how Neuro-Link specialist field that we refer to as neuroagility has evolved.
Oh, that's brilliant, and it's so interesting to see. It's a good segue for me to go into today's topic that we're discussing. I mean, it's called Success Sculpted by Brain Science. It's just to give a brief overview of what it is that from a coaching perspective we bring in to the corporate world or to the educational sphere, and then from a Neuro-Link's perspective, the tools that we use to apply in these situations. So I would just like to just segue into the title a little bit and just ask you, and once again, this is just conversational. If I say Success Sculpted by Brain Science, what does that mean to you guys? What would you say is the starting point, or what does it, just the term, mean? Because it's very most people get very intimidated when you think about brain science or neuroscience. It's a, oh no, it's not for me. It's when it gets, I'm not a neurophysiologist. I don't understand how my brain works. It's all these types of things, but it falls to that applied neuroscience. And you guys being experts in your field, just give us a bit of an overview of what do we mean with success sculpted through brain sciences in the field of business or coaching or education, whatever field you feel that you want to discuss. I mean, the floor is open.
Thanks, Andre. The title of this masterclass was not coincidental. It's very deliberate. So I'm really going to take the theme and the title of the masterclass. Let's start with success. You know, we use words, don't we? And we interpret words. And a big part of the approach that we have for coaching or mentoring or leadership is to understand that words, and I'm getting to the title, that words represent an internal representation of something that we've experienced. So we use the word success, and with yourselves and me and anybody else, our clients or somebody I'm speaking to, success starts forming a picture. The subconscious forms the pictures and the colors and based on our belief systems. So my word success is represented by an internal representation based on my dreams and my beliefs and my visions and my goals that I or you want to achieve. So my first invitation is, it is what success is for you in your personal life, as a parent, as a professional, because that's what matters. So neither Dr. Andre or I can tell you what success is for you, but we can certainly facilitate
Yeah.
you to really understand what that is. Because when you understand and when you embody what success is for you, you will feel it in your heart brain, in your head brain, in your gut brain, in your body, in the release of chemicals. There's a science behind that. That's part of the teachings. Then sculpted. There's ancient wisdom and art to neuroscience. The truth is the truth. What is so beautiful about neuroscience is that it's now giving us, and I use the word, my husband's an engineer, and he always says to me, Kim, that's not really what it means, but it works for me. I hope it works for you. Science is almost re-engineered or engineered in a practical way what is really happening in the body and the brain and
Yeah.
our thoughts, linked to our belief system. So the sculpturing part is really what I know, Dr. Andre, you do so well, because you know when you talk, I listen. What you do so well to explain and understand how this works from different perspectives. And it is not intimidating if we really understand the beauty and the power and the gift behind what neuroscience brings to us.
Yes, I think, for me, the context of success sculpted in brain science, the word success, it can many times the word success is used to suggest money and power and all those things. But the context of really being able to be successful, I believe, is really becoming the best version of yourself or an even better version of yourself. Because when you become an even better version of yourself, I believe you discover your value, your talents, your gifts, and your strengths. And when you start using that to make our world work better, then one of the many byproducts of success is when you become who you're supposed to, and then money and power and fulfillment and all those things become the byproducts of success. But it's not what success really is. It starts with you as the individual. So if we look at our theme for this masterclass, we use that word meaning to help you be an even better version. When it comes to the word sculpted, from a neuroscience perspective, there's a phenomena that we call neuroplasticity, but neuroplasticity literally is your brain's ability to continuously adapt and adjust and learn and rewire itself so that you can adapt to your world and not just survive, but even thrive. So therefore, for me, that word sculpted is as crucial. We are going to focus in this masterclass on how neuroplasticity helps you to become that even better version of yourself. And then obviously the word brain science, the fancier word for that would be more neuroscience, but unfortunately that word sometimes tend to scare people off, and they do associate it with the medical world and pathology. But within context of our masterclass and what we're talking about here, we look at how neuroscience or brain science can literally help us develop people and help them improve performance. And basically, so those three keywords, that success, sculpted, and brain science, that is what I think it's very descriptive of what the masterclass is actually going to be all about. We are going to, from a scientific point of view, look at how the brain functions and how you can understand those principles and use them to be an even better version of yourself. I think one of the journeys of life is to not become complacent with who you are, but there's always room to grow and be an even better version of yourself. And I think this masterclass will unlock those principles and keys.
No, I think that's vitally important. I think the main takeaway that I would have, I mean, I don't have a neuroscience background in terms of an academic neuroscience background, but within the work that we do, we work with applied neuroscience, and being in that field, the question always comes up whether you're dealing with clients, whether it's an organization, a school, coaches. Why is neuroscience important to develop your workforce or the future leaders of your company? It's one of the things that one of the topics that come up quite often is, why neuroscience is important for leadership development. I would love to hear your take on, or yeah, just like the previous, just have the conversation flowing, but just with regards to leadership specifically, why it's important to take that neuroscience perspective on developing your team, whether it be leaders or just your general employees.
Yeah, I think from my side, definitely the value of neuroscience and the point of departure. The brain is the sum total of the nerves inside your skull, but the mind means it is the sum total of your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior, and your intelligence. So what happens in the brain will impact the mind. What happens in the mind will impact the brain. You can't really separate these two concepts from each other. So you can't you can't move from a more basic perspective to develop yourself than starting with neuroscience as such. I think the power of neuroscience is simply, it is inclusive. And if we look at our world, it is so it becomes so globalized, and we need to be able, in the workplace, to accommodate different cultures and belief systems and genders and everyone. So to have a culture-based leadership development program is simply not going to work for a big corporate that has 113 different cultures in one organization. But what would then be an inclusive point of departure when we anchor people and development practices into what science tells us. When I started out as a business consultant, I would often receive the feedback from some of my clients who were like engineers or chartered accountants, and their thinking has been molded by exact sciences like math and chemistry and physics and so forth. But then their response would often be that, the human sciences are not really an exact science, which is correct. But the closest that you can ever come to making sure that your people development practices is going to give you good results is when you anchor your learning practices, your people development practices, your coaching practices into chemistry, neurophysiology, genetics, and so forth. And then the argument that human, people development is of substandard, or it's not that valuable because it's a non-exact science, then that argument flies out of the window. But the world of neuroscience is also the most researched science at the moment in the world, and will be still for decades, maybe centuries to come. And we do discover new ways and approaches all the time that sheds new light on, for instance, why people learn fast or slowly, why they learn differently, why some people make more mistakes than others, and so forth. So neuroscience brings us fresh perspectives to the world of business. And if it's anchored in the exact sciences, it means it will render better results to businesses, to coaching practices, to education, to the sports world, everywhere. So that is the beauty. Neuroscience helps us to separate facts from fiction. It is inclusive, and it is constantly starting to offer fresh perspectives on helping people improve their performance. Sorry, Kim, I'm talking a lot, but that's my 2 cents worth on that one.
No, I'm a student here, and I am listening. And there's something you said that put it so beautifully. When the way we work with people in leadership or other positions in organizations or in life, and it's anchored in the sciences. And science to me has become beautiful and sexy, by the way. It because of what we are seeing and the results we're getting. If it is, as you've said, Andre, anchored in science or neuroscience where that's applicable, we, I believe neuroplasticity, the molding, the multiple perspectives, the fact that the brain can change in the direction we focus, becomes exciting because it's like, I heard a definition of chaos recently, which I loved. And you can be so agile if you have healthy boundaries. If something is really rooted in the sciences, we can become so agile. If we don't have that rooting, it's chaos.
Yeah.
So and a second thing that came to mind with regard to leadership is that it, we've heard this. Leadership is inner leadership. That's really where it starts. And whether you have the title of a leader, or whether you're leading your family, or leading your own life, or leading in a position in an organization, we need to start realizing that no matter what your position in an organization, you are a brand.
Yeah.
You are a brand, and building that brand starts with inner leadership. It was something you said earlier on, Andre, and that is often the things that we have been ridiculed about, or that we believe are weaknesses, or that we believe is different, therefore we don't fit into social norms, is truly our gift. And you want to speak to me about diversity and inclusivity? There's great people doing great work there. But in where we come from, diversity and inclusivity is getting into the map of another person and ourselves embracing our authenticity and what makes us different. Again, you want to ask me what psychological safety is the fact that I can be safe
Yeah.
from whence I come, and the fact that I can speak about that, and that I can embrace that. So maybe in closing on this, Andre, Ashby's law, which I've sort of just repurposed for my brain to understand. You've seen my nap profile, Andre. So my brain simply, we'll speak about the brilliant nap profile. But it says very clearly that I need to simplify things.
Yeah.
And I simplify neuroscience and I simplify applied neuroscience. But the law of requisite variety, the law of agility says that you or I or he or she that's the most agile or flexible will rule the system. And
Yes.
ruling, must understand what that means. The system can be a relationship, it can be economy that's changing, it can be new laws, it can be new sales figures or sales achievement. How agile are we in how we relate to that?
Yeah.
That's what's important. And that's where neuroplasticity, as Andre alluded to, is extremely important. And Andre, in leadership, I think the time is there that we need to understand pseudo leadership. What is pseudo leadership? Is if we lead only from one perspective and we're not agile enough, if I'm only head based in the way that I lead, reports, facts, figures, Excel spreadsheets, or what AI gives us. And I love AI, by the way. I love ChatGPT and others. And pseudo leadership is also if the only way I know how to lead is from the heart, and the heart is exceptionally important. But I'm not going to be a wise leader if I lead only from the gut, or only from the heart, or only from the head. The time is to be agile enough to understand that we need to lead from wisdom, which is multiple perspectives, which is everything Andre spoke about, where neuroplasticity starts stepping in and broadening the way we think. Because sometimes we think as we believe, and maybe that belief is not really serving us. And that takes a lot of courage, right? To say, darn, this belief I've adopted or held since I was 11 or 24 may not be wisdom. And that's where the beautiful sculpting or design that God has given us in our neurology says, but you have neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
How are you going to work with that?
So that,
Yeah, and I so much agree with what you say there, Kim. And I think also coming back from a leadership perspective, the words agility means fast, easy, and flexible. And Andre, you used the word leadership. And one of the qualifying attributes of a leader nowadays is to be agile leaders. And it again means to be able to have a brain that is fit, fast, focused, and flexible. But that doesn't happen automatically. Even if you have a strong mental, intellectual acumen, it doesn't mean that you are fit. Fit is something you practice. Flexibility is something you develop. You are not born fit and flexible. And that is something that has to be developed. And because of the challenge of leaders having to continuously steer through constant and disruptive change all the time, you need to have the mental flexibility to adapt and adjust to new systems, structures, technology, AI, whatever is out there. And if you are not flexible, you are not going to be able to lead effectively. And leadership is anyway about influence. But how do you influence people? Through the example that you set. If you want your workforce to be agile, you need to show them what agility looks like. But also, if you want your workforce to be emotionally intelligent people, you need to show them what it looks like. So you influence people through the example that you set. You inspire people through the example that you set. And if you do not understand what qualities you have to inspire and to influence, then how are you going to influence? Because some people influence with a logical mind. Others influence because they have a charismatic personality. Some people influence through the goals that they pursue and achieve. We all influence, but in different ways. And you need to understand how your qualities strengthens your leadership qualities,
Yeah.
and the agility helps you to integrate all those qualities into an agile leadership style. And that is something that is the new platinum standard. Agile leadership, in my opinion, is the new platinum standard for leadership excellence.
I think that's absolutely phenomenal. So what I've heard you both speak about is that agility. So from my perspective, being, and this is just an open question, um, to be agile in terms of your workforce and your teams, what does that mean, or how do you translate that into something that's practical and applicable within your organization? So I've got all these individuals, each one is focused on their task, but research shows us that, the more integrated your teams are with each other and the more they work as one, the better the results are. But how do we get to that point where I've got an agile team or an agile workforce?
Again, from my perspective, I think there's a golden rule we live by in Neuro-Link, and that is simply you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So if we talk about developing agility or neuro-agility, you've got to be able to measure, because agility is not just one or two things. To be a mentally agile person, to have mental flexibility, to be analytical and creative, to be expressive and receptive, to be emotional and rational, all at the same time. That has to be developed. So you've got to assess, if we talk about agility, which elements of agility that influences my neuro-agility is strong, and where is it that I need to develop? And once I have a dashboard in front of me full of different elements that I can develop, I can see where am I good at and which elements do I need to develop further. And to me, I believe that is the rule for good consulting. You cannot improve what you cannot measure. So we measure, then we introduce the learning and development solutions, and then you need to remeasure again. And then you will know, did I make a difference? If so, what type of difference did I make? In which areas should I still develop further? But at least it gives you a scientific point of departure to go about helping people become even better versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I created a picture while you were speaking, Andre, of programming a missile. We need to start with the end in mind. So in an organization, in a team, what are the objectives of the organization, of the department, and then of the individual that feeds into that? So, and I'm well aware your organization and our organization is very particular about measuring. You can't manage or change in an agile way if you can't measure. So programming the missile of where you want to go, specific coordinates. If you want coordinate out, you know the story.
Yeah.
But also, maybe even more importantly, which could be neglected, my experience is, where are you now? We're so focused on where we want to go to, and the year-end strategic plan and the slide packs and the budgets. That's important. The neurology wants to know where it's going to and start with the end in mind. We seldom, and I know this is what your brilliant profile does, and authentic profiling is, where are you now? Where is the base calibration from which and from where we start? And often that takes courage
Yeah.
to have that self-awareness and that insight to say, I'm pretty far away from where I should be, or I'm well on my way. So having vulnerability and courage is something we really instill in people to say, you know, agile and servant leadership with ourselves and others really starts with vulnerability. Can I be really vulnerable about where I'm now in relation to where I need to go, where I'm doing things that are not really serving me or my team or other people? And uh, the teaching of the meaning of everything is context dependent, to get into the context and the map and the situation of a team and people is really so important. We can't just come and plaster things and generalized teachings. And that's what I love about your profile and what you guys do, Andre, is it's very specific to the individual. And we absolutely respect and apply the same principle. And in closing, in your question, Andre, and that is, and something you said is, Dr. Andre, agile leadership. But what does that mean?
Mm.
It means, do we know how to get to creative solutions, which is a very big function of the head brain, the cephalic brain? Um, After doing your profile and reading it, it was like I was re-exploring and re-understanding myself about my dominance and whole brain thinking and, the mistakes I've made in the past with how I was leading people was directly related to what I was seeing in this report. But creative solutions, creativity is the highest expression of the head brain. Compassion is the highest expression of the heart brain. Do I know how to do compassion in business? That is
That's a
wise.
tough one. That's a tough one.
Of course it is, because we've been conditioned since the 1920s that it's just the head brain logical reporting based stuff, but bringing wise heart braining into it, because the highest expression of the heart brain is compassion. Here is another one. The highest expression of the gut brain is courage. Do I know how to bring courage into decisions I'm making? How to lead with courage? And then to integrate the head, heart, and gut brain. And we've had a lot of discussions, Andre, and with yourself, Andre Jr. and Tian, in how the different centers of intelligence communicate with one another.
Yeah.
And that is really wise, multiple perspective leadership, and that's agility in leadership.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with what you and Andre said. I think especially we in a very, I mean, everybody these days knows about the book, the VUCA and the Barney world, the volatility, the uncertainty,
Yeah.
everything post-COVID as sort of jumbled things up. It seems like everything's plateauing out again for the good, depending on where you find yourself in the world. But it's vitally important for a company to understand that I'm in this VUCA in a Barney world. So what is it that I can do? How can I empower the team that I have, and not just like you said, Kim, the old 1920s way of doing things. These are your tasks, you have to complete them. We companies sort of tend to forget, especially if it's a massive company with hundreds or maybe even thousands of employees, that those employees aren't just numbers.
Yeah.
They are you're sitting with people. People aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So I know with technological developments, people are fearful of, losing their jobs to AI and all the technological advancements. So I would just be interested to find out what your perspectives would be on, as a corporation, how do I ensure that I empower and I'm trying to think of the right word for it. It's not just empowering, but it's engaging with my workforce not to get them to, check out completely, or sort of just maintain that workplace engagement, making it positive for them to be in this environment. You very seldom hear of people that want to go to work. So how do you cultivate the culture around being happy, or being positive in my environment, and how can we translate that to the brain? I know there's a whole, you guys mentioned neuroplasticity. It plays a big role. Being agile plays a big role. I know, um, yeah, there's a whole bunch of interventions that you can do. I would just out of interest be yeah, very interested to hear what you guys say, and how do you engage or re-engage your workforce?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, and I don't think that's the whole answer, but definitely a very big part of what research tells us now is that especially millennials and the younger generations want to have a sense of purpose, need to find purpose in the work they do, or they lose interest. But I think it's not just the millennials. I think it is everyone. The more you can help your workforce to find a sense of purpose and meaning in the jobs they do, the easier for them it will be to engage in that. So I think that personal empowerment of allowing people to come to work and come express who they are through the unique gifts that they have, the strengths and the talents. In other words, I want to be able to express myself in the way that I understand I am in
Yeah,
the workplace, and see how those gifts and talents can contribute towards a greater purpose of things. And that is why, again, if we look at neuroagility, when you start understanding the mental qualities that you have, how you are smart, how you are talented, and you not just discover your talents, but you get an opportunity to express and develop those talents. I
yeah,
think one of what research tells us about specifically why people get fired in the workplace, you know, actually just 11% of new appointees in a job get fired because of lack of vocational skills. The other 89% of people leave because of either attitude, lack of emotional intelligence, conflict with leaders who do not necessarily have good emotional intelligence skills or agility skills, and so forth. So I do think that a part of getting people to engage is for them to understand who I am and then be able to express who I am in the workplace. That's where I feel. In fact, there are studies that suggest that most of the millennial workers would see that as more valuable to them, the ability to express my purpose in the workplace, than actually a better salary. That's how
wow,
important this is to them.
wow,
And I think this tells us something about how the workplace should change, because that also means that let's help our workers then to understand who we are, how we are different, how we are talented, and how we can use that to contribute. But then once they discover that, let's help them develop appropriate skills. We always say talent plus nothing equals nothing, but talent plus appropriate skills gives you competence. I can have a linguistic intelligence, but if that's the potential that I have, but I never hone those skills by developing communication, presentation skills, negotiation skills, and so forth, that potential is never going to change into competence. And I do believe just as much as a parent has a responsibility to develop their children so that their children can become more of who they can be by giving them opportunities to learn skills. That's what we need to do in the workplace as well. So the more we invest in the talent that we have to discover, develop, hone it, the better the workplace will be for those people, the more effective and productive they will be. That's my 2 cents worth.
I
Mm.
absolutely love that.
You know, I've been reminded of a very lively debate with a client recently, specifically chaired by the Chief Operating Officer, which is the person that brings us back to reality, and the financial director was also there. So it's like, well, what guarantees and results are we going to get for the investment? And I think this is often overlooked, that we don't forget the organization.
Yeah.
Yes, speak people. Yes, we speak talent. There's a brilliant book, I've just thought about it, Andre. Talent is not enough. That speaks, leans into what you've just said. And yes, we speak all of that because this is the engine from which the organization is driven. And it's vitally important. But we don't forget the organization. The organization, in our approach, is a living entity. The organization has a head brain and a heart brain and a gut brain. The organization needs stuff to survive and thrive, and needs people to do certain things. So when we do endeavor into a project or a program, we honor the same with regard to the organization. What are your objectives? What is it that you would like to achieve? And understanding that the organization is a living entity, we look at what the outcomes are and the purpose of the organization and the objectives to achieve, and go back to the individuals and the teams and say, how are you relating to this?
Yeah.
Because we all know a team and an individual can achieve whatever they put their mind to. That's the design of the neurology. I guess the question is, what could be standing in your way? What could
Yeah.
be the abundance blocks in your thinking, in the way you lead, that could stand in the way of what the objectives are that we need to achieve? So we spend quite a lot of time on how are you relating to what is expected from you with regard to the organization, and then get into their map. And because we know about neuroplasticity and the importance of agility, is where are the missing links in what could stand in your way of achieving in your department, in your position, and in your team. And we listen to the words. It's so important to go and listen to the words that individuals are speaking about the organization, because we find that the words, I guess because of mirror neurons or not, people start using the same lingo and language. The language of the mind of the organization becomes a collective language, a very quick leaning into a case study. That's what we did initially with an organization. And we started plotting the same words that were used. And man, was this interesting.
Yeah.
It becomes the collective energy, the collective language. And what we do know is our words become our stories, and our stories are so real that it releases the chemistry. And chemistry is powerful. We have energy in motion, that is our emotions, and eventually we get the results. And sometimes we call it culture.
Yeah. 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 That's
Sometimes we call it results. So sometimes we need to go back to basics and say, what are the first principles of what is putting this culture into motion, or
yeah.
we're not getting the results. And all of this is neuro nerd stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's, hey, Andre, it's neuro
Absolutely.
nerd stuff. It's really
Absolutely.
sexy and interesting if we start really getting our
Yeah.
hands into.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. What I'm hearing from both of you is there needs to be an alignment between your purpose, what you do, and the organization. And I think that's absolutely valuable. And I think if you lose out on any one of those spheres, it could lead to, a bit of unhappiness and so on. I think we can go on for hours with these discussions. So the last thing that I want to do is just a basic plug for we've got an upcoming masterclass on the 26th, the afternoons of the 26th and the 27th of June, where Andre and Kim will be delving headfirst into some of what you've heard here today. And we're excited to share just the basic insights of what the masterclass would be about. So, Kim, I would love to give you the opportunity just to give a short baseline of what you'd like to cover throughout or what you are going to cover in the masterclass. And then, Andre, I'm gonna give you the same opportunity, and then we're just gonna close off today's episode.
The latest findings and teachings of applied neuroscience and open floor discussions about what does that mean for the coaches there, the mentors, the internal coaches and mentors, the leaders, the managers, the entrepreneurs, and taking that away into breakout practice groups. We definitely will have case studies there. We will have worksheets that we will work through on the specific themes, the multiple brain perspectives and agile leadership. And Andre and I come from different perspectives, and wisdom comes from different perspectives, for people to take away from there and decide what is going to work in which context. So there will be also live demonstrations and some brilliant giveaways, and I don't like calling them giveaways because that doesn't do it justice. And then post-program, and it is now over 2 afternoons, and it is virtual live because we've had a lot of inquiry about people who are not necessarily in Gauteng, but across Africa. So that's great news. And there will be post-workshop ebooks and tools and techniques that we will summarize and send to everybody.
Brilliant.
Yes, I think adding just to everything that Kim said, we are going to also give you an assessment. We talked in this session about you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So you will get a neuroagility profile. And the purpose of this profile is it's going to show you, what your brain potential looks like. It is going to show you what your mental flexibility looks like and offer how to improve it. Because what we do is not to test. The test is something that you can fail. You cannot fail your own design. So you just discover, confirm, and optimize what you understand about yourself. And that's the purpose of this neuroagility profile. So it will not just be talking about neuroscience, but it's going to be a personal experience where everything you learn, you will be able to make applicable to you personally from a neuroagility perspective. So this profile will also show you some brain fitness activities that you can do. It will suggest many skills to help you improve your performance, improve your brain fitness, improve brain health, and improve your mental flexibility. So it will be an in-depth personal experience for you as well.
Brilliant. Well, just to make a note of it, the 26th and the 27th of June, the sessions will take place in the afternoon, South African Standard Time. So please, if you have any inquiries, you're welcome to contact us, send us a DM, send us an email. All the details to the event will be posted. We are extremely excited. We've got two thought leaders in industry that have combined together to do this masterclass. We've had we've been asked as separate entities. We've been asked a couple of times, you know, what can we or how do we address certain issues throughout the year? And we've just said, okay, let's combine forces. Let's see if we can do a masterclass together. And the people are excited about this event. So we've changed it to a virtual event just based on, as Kim said, the just accessibility. We want to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. So with that, I want to thank you, Kim, and thank you, Andre. It was really an interesting conversation, and I feel I need to go back and digest everything that was discussed. It was a brilliant conversation. It was really insightful to have you both just converse with each other and just give insightful practical applications to something that can sometimes feel very complex to people. So with that, I want to thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Dr. Andre.